we're here at station number 11, and it's Jesus is nailed to the cross. In our image right here, we have Jesus on the cross, and then there's a gentleman nailing his hands and his feet to the cross. This is where it kind of all comes down to, and so in times like this, it's really important to go to Scripture.
So I'm reading from Matthew chapter 27, and I'm going to start at verse 33. They came to a place called Golgotha, which means the place of the skull. There they offered Jesus wine to drink mixed with gall, but after tasting it, he refused to drink it. When they had crucified him, they divided up his clothes by casting lots, and sitting down, they kept watch over him there. Above his head, they placed the written charge against him. This is Jesus, the King of the Jews. 2 rebels were crucified with him, one on his right and one on his left.
It's always heavy. We read these texts over and over and over again, and sometimes we just read them and we glance over them and we say, oh, that's right, I know that story. But I think the main thing about Stations of the Cross is really to pause, to read the story, to hear the story, and to feel the story, and to feel the weight of what Jesus went through for all of us.
This sign represents that charge, because remember, Jesus was arrested and charged with something, that he was King of the Jews, and both the Romans and the Jewish leadership both had a problem with that. He wasn't a king according to the Jews, and he certainly wasn't a king according to the Romans. This is one of the ways that we see it represented. I think this is in Latin, INRI. You see that often above a cross in various churches, or maybe on the front of an altar. And so this represents that for us today. And then Rebecca also has a nail. Now, these nails are very tame in comparison to what they would have used for Jesus. If you can imagine maybe a railroad spike, if you've ever seen one of those, it would have been more akin to that than these. But these kind of represent for us that Jesus was nailed to the cross, not just tied with ropes, which would have been bad enough, but it went through his skin and through his bones and nailed him to the cross. So that this cross that he's been carrying now, he's wounded, he's beaten, he's fallen, he's awful, he feels awful, and now all of a sudden they've nailed him to a cross.
I mean, can you imagine carrying this cross on your back, having your clothes most likely probably ripped, and your back bloodied, and again, flesh torn because you were beaten, and then to go up against this hard piece of wood and have your back rubbing up against that, the immense pain that he must have felt is beyond anything I can even begin to comprehend. And then to be made fun of along the line, and then to be called King of the Jews, and then to be known that nobody even wants you to be called that because it's made as a joke. I'm completely fine now saying Jesus is my king. But at that point and at that moment, it would have been terrifying for the people to say, yes, he is my king. And it was done to belittle him and to embarrass him. And I just can't get over the fact that he did this full well and knowing for you and I, not for somebody back in the Old Testament or the New Testament or his buddies that hung out with him.
Right.
It's literally for the people that are walking the earth today and for the people that will be walking the earth in generations to come. He did this for us.
This is what we have described as Jesus' sacrifice, right? And there's part of Scripture talks about, so maybe most people might sacrifice themselves for a noble person or for someone that they love dearly. Jesus sacrificed himself for the whole world. And like Rebecca just said, and for all time. I mean, it's mind-boggling if you ponder that for very long about what Jesus did for us. And if you can image giving Jesus all of your pain, giving Jesus all of your problems, giving Jesus all your woundedness, giving Jesus everything you've ever done wrong, and have him carry all of that with him to the cross. The symbolism there is that it all died there.
It's gone.
So, right, it's completely gone. It was crucified with Christ. So that's why when Scripture talks about us being clean, being cleansed by the crucifixion of Jesus, that's what it's talking about, is that because he took all of that, we do not have to carry that with us anymore. And so it gives us a new life. It gives us hope to live in a different way.
So what are those burdens that you're carrying with you today? What do you need to ask for forgiveness for, or what do you need to give to God? Because he went on the cross for you, so give him that. Honor him by giving him everything that's burdening you, that's hurting your heart, or maybe something that somebody else has done to you, because that's what he did it for. So if you're holding all of that in, it was pointless for him to do what he did, and he did it because he loves you. So give it to him.
This is called forgiveness. That's what it's all about. Station 11.
Amen.
Won't you take this cup from me?